Republicans are often coy when it comes to the question of what they would do with the 11 million undocumented immigrants currently in the country, because we know that they don't like them, but a lot of them won't actually say what needs to be done. For instance, Ted Cruz said that we can't even address that issue until we secure the border. So they're not going to say what they want, but there is one politician, well, he's not really even a politician, Donald Trump, said specifically what he would do, and his answer was unequivocal. Take a look.
The executive order gets rescinded. One good thing
You'll rescind that one too?
One good thing
You'll rescind the Dream Act executive order.
You're going to have to.
DACA.
We have to make a whole new set of standards. And when people come in, they have to come in.
You're going to split up families.
Chuck,
you're going to deport children.
Chuck, no. We're going to keep the families together. We have to keep the families together.
But you're going to keep them
they have
together
to
out.
go. But they have to go.
What if they have no place to go?
We will work with them. They have to go.
You've heard it firsthand. He didn't mince words. He didn't stutter. All 11 million must be deported, according to Donald Trump. Now, let's put aside the fact, let's try at least, to put in the back of our minds the fact that this is morally outrageous and just downright deplorable. But let's actually look at this from a policy perspective. Now, if you don't like immigrants, undocumented immigrants specifically, you're a bad person, of course. But this is not a sound policy proposal, even if you hate immigrants. So, a 2010 study from the Center for American Progress estimates that deporting all 11 million immigrants would cost $285 billion over 5 years. Now, this is the most conservative estimate that I saw on this. Some studies have found that it would cost $400 billion, and that's even if you can actually identify the 11 million undocumented immigrants, because the fact remains that they're undocumented. So, I mean, how are you going to find them? Are you going to knock on every single door? Are you going to become the Gestapo? What's going to happen here? So now, additionally, the Bipartisan Policy Center found that deportation of all 11 million immigrants would shrink the U.S. labor force by 6.4% over 2 decades, and AAF finds that it would decrease our GDP by $1.6 trillion. So, furthermore, the American people actually disagree with this move. Gallup finds that 65% of Americans believe undocumented immigrants should be allowed to stay and should be given a path to citizenship. So, if we actually did what the American people wants as opposed to what Donald Trump and a group of fringe Americans want, well, on the flip side, Newsweek explains that putting undocumented immigrants on a pathway to citizenship, which 2/3 of Americans support, would add a cumulative $1.2 trillion to the GDP over a decade, increase the earnings of all Americans by $625 billion, and create an average of 145,000 new jobs each year. So this is the preferred policy because, one, families wouldn't be broken up, and two, our economy would actually benefit and all Americans would benefit from it. Also, one last thing is that it wouldn't make us look like a terrible country to literally every other single country in the world. So, deporting all 11 million immigrants, it's not only impractical, it's bad policy, it's morally deplorable, and Donald Trump should be ashamed of himself for even suggesting it. Now, look, if you disagree with those studies, we actually have empirical examples to go off of. So, now, for the couple of states wherein they've implemented more draconian laws against undocumented immigrants, thus forcing them to flee, well, it didn't turn out too well for them. Mike.com explains, last fall, Alabama Governor Robert Bentley signed a tough law combating illegal immigration, which prompted undocumented workers to flee the state. Few locals will perform the grueling work of picking crops, and farmers stuck in an agricultural system built on illegal labor are struggling to find replacements before their produce rots. Worker shortages have prompted some Alabama farmers who grow labor-intensive produce to plant less, rather than have crops rot in the fields again this year. Alabama's situation is not unique. Georgia passed a similar immigration law in 2011 when undocumented workers fled. Farmers lost around 40% of their workers and $140 million worth of blueberries, melons, onions, and other crops due to labor shortages. This year, Georgia farmers again fear they will be short on workers to pick the crops, and many have scaled back production or stopped planting altogether. So the verdict is in. Deporting all 11 million undocumented immigrants is not just racist, it's not just xenophobic, it's just bad policy.